I think I do know why Brianna Wu doesn't get it, because she's just fucking stupid. Like, that's it. Okay? That's it. She's just fucking dumb. So I don't think she understands this, even as a trans person, that like a transphobic person did not logically arrive at the conclusion of transphobia. Before we do that, it seems like Brianna Wu was trying to get J.K. Rowling. Never forget, gender identity isn't about sex stereotypes, but playing around with your hair proves you're not a man. Brianna Wu, I know that there's an angry crowd that will never believe trans women are an admittedly weird variation of woman, but for people in the middle, here's 25 minutes of Dollcast show just talking about doing our hair. Can anyone honestly say we would make sense living as men? J.K. Rowling saw that and got very mad about it and said, never forget, gender identity isn't about sex stereotypes, but playing around with your hair proves you're not a man. Brianna Wu responded to her with this long-ass effort post. Miss Rowling, first of all, our show is about moderate trans positions. If you watched it, you probably agree with many of our positions. We don't support trans women in sports. We have severe reservations about the trans fringe. We don't like the way it's medicalizing children, particularly young girls, and that's considering 2 of our hosts transitioned as minors. This clip about 4 trans women having the kinds of conversations most women have. We're trying to get people like you to see our humanity. None of us would be happy if you forced us to live as men. There's a political project pushing everyone to the extremes right now. I've taken a lot of heat denouncing the trans fringe, the same people that have sent you death threats. Neither of us have to be a part of it. We really can find solutions that work for everyone. You are welcome on the Dollcast show anytime. And it's really funny because Achievement Unlocked, both India Willoughby and J.K. Rowling hate the moderate trans politics of Dollcast. India attacked us the other day and we responded. We were fairly frustrated because we don't feel like she actually watched the show enough to understand what we're doing. I don't know why. I mean, I think I do know why Brianna Wu doesn't get it, because she's just fucking stupid. Like, that's it. Okay? That's it. She's just fucking dumb. So I don't think she understands this, even as a trans person, that like a transphobic person did not logically arrive at the conclusion of transphobia. They didn't logic their way there, okay? They didn't go, ooh, the extreme fringes are scaring me, okay? No, transphobic people think you are an aberration that must be forcibly excised from society. They think you are a morally degenerate pervert that needs to be killed, okay? So I don't understand why you try to go to those people and go, no, you don't understand. We're actually in agreement. We're actually totally in agreement. Please recognize my humanity. It's just not going to happen. I'll take it one step further. I have an infinitely easier time converting a transphobic person away from having transphobic positions than Brianna Wu does, especially with that kind of rhetoric. Okay? And the reality of that matter is, it's because I'm a cisgender heterosexual man. Because guess what? Lo and behold, shockingly enough, transphobic people who are either on, who have this predisposition or who are on their journey towards like extreme levels of like J.K. Rowling, are not going to listen to a trans person because their starting position is that trans people are not normal and they're fucked up and wrong and evil. Is quite aptly put the dehumanization of trans people. J.K. Rowling does not see you as a human being. Why the f would she ever do that? Anyway, Dreamleaf says, uh-oh, looks like Brianna's little pick-me act isn't working on J.K. Rowling. Of course it's not. I disagree. The only way that you can, as a trans person, get an otherwise transphobic person to no longer be transphobic is by being a cool person, being a cool and normal person, like a coworker or whatever. That is the greatest antidote to transphobia. All right? It's something that I talk about quite frequently. But someone like J.K. Rowling, especially when they're making, especially when they're getting hug boxed and getting prominence by other like-minded psychopathic transphobic people online, is never going to turn around and see you as a human being. That's it. Do you get it? It's something that I talk about quite frequently. If, ironically enough, if Brianna Wu wasn't this like stupid weirdo who was constantly conceding to the whims of transphobes or whatever, and was just like a normal person with normal hobbies, didn't talk about this shit all the time, and somehow found herself around transphobic people, she could probably actively de-radicalize people away from transphobic positions by just existing as a normal person. But she, much like many other people, personally think that, You can if you're a black person, for example, if you kind of lean into the whims of white supremacists, then you'll be able to get white supremacists to recognize your humanity. You won't even be able to get the white supremacists to recognize your own individual humanity as a loyal servant of white supremacy, let alone other black people. That's not how this works. It's ridiculous. Are you always like this, or was yesterday just special? I don't know. Are you going to show up to my house and throw me off a building? Good stuff. Where does the throwing people off buildings Islamophobia meta come from? I think ISIS. Does she mean that in a racist anti-Islam way? What does that mean? Yes. This is why I always tell people, like, you can't hug and kiss conservatives and like lean into their insanity. Okay. You can't do that. Like, that's not, if your goal is to actively decouple them from the whims of reactionary sentiment, you can't do that by compromising with them and telling them, like, you know what, honestly, you're right on this. Okay. You can't tolerate their intolerance, because their intolerance is inherently illogical. Their intolerance is not coming from a place of genuine concern, but pure anger. And oftentimes, it is a very apt mechanism of distraction and deflection away from the real vectors of harm in contemporary society. It's stupid. This doesn't mean that you should, like, I don't know, actively treat every anyone and everyone as though they're